Everybody, it's been a while, thank God. I was up in a place called Machane Moshava. Anybody familiar? B'nai Akiva, Indian Orchard, Pennsylvania. So I was there for the last month, which is fun.
You were down.
Huh?
You were down.
I was down. But in Moshava, they talk about Eretz Yisrael so much, yeah. But it is very nice. So it's good to be back. Okay, so we're heading out, I understand, into the summer months and vacation. So summer months vacation means we have to go on a Tiyul. Someplace in Eretz Yisrael, and also I had promised somebody here that we'll do one more Tiyul before the end of the summer, this season. So we're going to go visit today two different places, and also I had to finish up something from about 6 months ago. So I'm assuming everybody remembers exactly what we did 6 months ago, so we'll make it easy. All right, so we begin. So this is going to be a story about Elisha and Naaman, who's a general and the king of Aram. And this is supposed to rhyme, a cryptic pasuk with a topographical look. That was supposed to be the rhyme. And with that we're going to begin. So Am Yisrael comes into Eretz Yisrael. It's a little fuzzy. Hold on. That's better. Okay, so Am Yisrael starts out, the first time we're introduced, we're going to talk about Aram. Aram Naharayim. Avram Avinu comes from Aram. And when Am Yisrael comes into Eretz Yisrael, they're hanging out over here, and then some of Am Yisrael's in Aver HaYarden on the other side of the Jordan River. And Aram is basically, it's the Damascus area, up to the Euphrates. They're basically a different nation. We have nothing to do with them. Our general detail, our involvement in Sefer Yoshua and Sefer Shoftim is with who? The Shivas Amim. It's the nations that we find in Eretz Yisrael that we have to conquer, right? But all of a sudden, at the beginning of Sefer Shoftim, it comes in that Vayasu b'nei Yisrael Torah, typical Sefer Shoftim kind of a story. Vayasu b'nei Yisrael Torah b'nei Hashem, the Jewish people do bad, and they forget about God, and then they start worshiping Avodah Zarah. Vayicha'af Hashem b'Yisrael, Hashem gets angry, and he puts them into the hands of Kushan Rishatayim, Melech Aram Naharaim, who's the king of Aram. And then Jews are subjugated for 8 years, and the Jewish people finally do tshuva. Vayokam Hashem Moshiach l'vnei Yisrael vayoshiim et Otniel ben Knas achi Kalev HaKatan. Hashem sends him Otniel ben Knas. Ruach Hashem comes upon him, and he's able to defeat Kushan Rishatayim Melech Aram, and the land becomes quiet for the next 40 years. Okay, that's going to be our typical, framing for Sefer Shoftim. But this first one with Otniel ben Knas, who's Otniel ben Knas? Sounds familiar?
The brother of Kaleb.
Yeah, he's a brother of Kaleb, and what is he known for? He's a big warrior, ready in Sefer in Devarim, Sefer Bamidbar. So he's a warrior, and also he's like one of the top. He's like the Rosh Yeshiva, right? The Rosh Sanhedrin. For example, the Gemara Masechet Tamura says that there was 1,700 different kalim, zerot, shabbat, diktukei, sofrim, laws that were forgotten. Nishtachu b'yamei avlo shel Moshe. When Moshe died, there's another place that says 300 questions, but here it says 1,700 things were forgotten during the time that Moshe is no longer there. Amar Rabbi Abo, afa pichin hechziran Otniel ben Knas b'tov pilpulo. Otniel ben Knas was able to bring back, because he's like the huge Talmid Chacham. Seems like he's greater than Yoshua even as far as that goes. And that's what we're talking about. So it is a very nice sefer that I enjoyed by somebody named Rav Avraham Remer, who's no longer with us, but he wrote a sefer, Ishla Shivtah, Sefer Shoftim, on Sefer Yoshua. He taught in Merkaz Harav. I particularly like his farm because he teaches Tanach al Pitor Rav Kook. And so there's like soaring themes, and over here he explains that what Aram Naharaim was is that Aram Naharaim is not in our area. He's coming in from the outside, and it's sort of like God sends him there to tell the Jewish people, this is like almost like a blip. It's still, Otniel ben Knas is close enough to Yoshua, and the generation is close enough to Yoshua, that they're for the most part doing the right thing. And we step out of line for a moment, and then Kadosh Baruch Hu sends us somebody from totally outside our area to give us a little bit of a zetz and punim, that we should realize that we have to do better, and then for the next 40 years we're doing okay. It's almost as if that with the rest of Sefer Shoftim didn't happen, and we didn't do sins again. This would have almost been a forgotten matter. But that's where Aram Naharaim comes in. He's somebody from the outside, and this point in Sefer Shoftim, in the book of Judges. But then afterwards, and he's put on the side. We don't see him again for the next several hundred years. We're going to now go up to David HaMelech, and then Shlomo, and we're going to head into the 800s BCE, and we're going to get past, obviously we're going to get past even Eliyahu HaNavi and Achav. We're all the way up to Elisha the Navi, and here we go. Here's the next story. We're now talking about an Am Yisrael that already has been split between the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of the Malchut HaTzafon, the northern kingdom of Yisrael. And here they call on this map Aram Damascus, because Damascus is like the main city. Okay, and that's where we pick up our story. It's about 500 years later. At this point, Aram comes once more, and at this point, Aram is actually our enemy that's constantly bothering the Jewish people. We're having battles with Aram all the time. And here's the story. Now we're going to English. It's a wonderful story, and it is actually one of the Haftorot, the Parshas Tazria. And it goes like this. Now Naaman, the general of the king of Aram, was a prominent man before his Lord and respected, for through him had the Lord given victory to Aram, and the man was a great warrior, and he was also Mitzorah. Now the Arameans went out in bands and captured from the land of Israel a young girl who ministered to Naaman's wife. They're not great people. Naaman's like, if he's the general, he's a butcher. And he also has, obviously this girl has been kidnapped from her home. But anyway, she says to her mistress, the supplications from master should be that he go before the prophet who is in Shomron. Who's the prophet in Shomron? Elisha. Then he would cure him of his tsaras. So he came to his master, right? He's going to go to the king of Aram, and he says to him, this is what I've heard. And the king of Aram says, no problem, come and go. I'll send a letter to you, the king of Israel. And he went and he took possession of 10 talents of silver and gold pieces and clothes. And the letter came to the king of Israel, saying that when this letter comes to you, behold, I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, and you shall, what's that? Cure him from its tsarat. Okay, what's the response of the king of Israel? I can't do this. How do you cure somebody from tsaras?
I'm not a doctor.
So I'm not a doctor. So obviously, what is this going to be? This is a ploy. What's the ploy? You're setting up the king of Israel to falter, to fail, and that's a good reason to be able to attack. He says that's what's going on. It's a pretext against me. And then Elisha, a man of God, heard the king of Israel had rent his garments, saying, "Why have you rent your garments? Let him come to me, and I'll tell you. Let him know there's a prophet in Israel." Naaman came with his horses and with his chariots, and he stood at the doorway of Elisha's house. And Elisha dispatched a messenger to him, saying, "Go and immerse yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored to you, and you'll become clean." So Naaman became incensed. He says he went away and he said, "Here I thought that he would come out to see me, and he would stand and call in the name of Hashem his God, and he would raise his hand toward the spot and cure the Mitzorah." Right? Makes sense. You go hocus pocus, and you pull the Mitzorah right off, which you would expect from a prophet of Israel. And now he's telling me to go dip in the water? He says, wait a second. Are not Amana and Parpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Will I not immerse myself in them and become clean? He turned and went away in anger. His servant said, what's the big deal? That's what he tells you. If it's something difficult, so you wouldn't do it. But now immerse yourself and become clean. Something easy. So he went down, immersed himself in the Jordan 7 times, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored, like the flesh of a young lad, and he became clean. Okay. All right. This is a nice story. Okay. Now, if you're Naaman, what's going through your mind? I went into the waters over here in Israel. So what cured him? The water. There's something very medicinal about the waters of Israel. People go to the Dead Sea in the wintertime. Something about the waters of Israel, which is very therapeutic, and that's what cured him. So that's the question that we have over here. So why is it that Elisha, why didn't he go hocus pocus and pull it out? Wouldn't that have been a greater miracle? Wouldn't Naaman have really learned the powers of the Navi B'Yisrael? And also he sends him to the water over here. That's exactly what Naaman's saying. I could go to waters anywhere. So he goes into the waters of the Jordan, and he obviously comes out and says, wow, there's something special about these waters that are very therapeutic. So that's a very big question that we have on the storyline over here, what Elisha was thinking. So here's a case of just like a funny kind, it's a cryptic kind of a story. And if you know your topography well, if we do a good tiyul today, then we'll understand exactly what Naaman is saying. And here's the vort. Okay? He's saying that I have 2, what was it again? It was Parpar and, where's my notes? Parpar, he mentioned two different rivers. What was it? I could just go back a slide, right? So what does he say? He had said Parpar and Amana. Now we assume of Damascus, the rivers of Damascus. So today we call them the Awaj River and the Barada River. That's how Damascus, that's why Damascus is here. It's between these two rivers. It could be that Aram Naharayim might be from that Lashon. Naharayim mean two rivers. And this is where he's coming from. Okay, so this is what happens. Now there's a very nice sefer. There's a fellow, Professor Yitzchak Meitlis. He's in, I think, in Hebrew in Tel Aviv, and also in Herzog. This actually, the sefer is Mabat Archeology, Geography, Parshiot HaShavua. This is what I use on Shabbos. So I go to an early minyan so I can get home, and at 8 o'clock I'm sitting down with Kiddush, and it's quiet in the world. People are either in shul or sleeping. And I'm out there looking out over No Fire Alone, having Kiddush, a cup of coffee, and this is my Shabbos Tanach, this book. Archeology, Geography, and the Parsha Shavua. So Rabbi, Professor Meitlis suggests the following. Is his brilliance. Okay? We traveled here once before. And we discussed this, and I'm doing it very quickly because we actually talked about where are we? Mitzpeh Yericho, right? We're in Mitzpeh Yericho with their famous chuppah that's looking out over Bikat HaYarden. And the reason that we traveled here before is because I wanted to show you that if you go over here to Midbar Yehuda near Mitzpeh Yericho, here's a little bit of grass, but for the most part everything gets pretty dried out. And again over here, beautiful pictures. This is going to be, Highway 1 going down towards Yam HaMelach. Look at this, it's just dried out. But that's like 15 minutes, 10 minutes outside of Yerushalayim. So what happened exactly? And this is what I'm saying, we discussed this once before. Here people are looking out over from the Tatzpit in Mitzpeh Yericho, and you get to see Yericho itself and the Jordan River, and over here you're going to be ready in Harei Moav, Har Nevo. Okay, yeah, so what exactly happens? Why is it so dry? In Yerushalayim, right over here in Yerushalayim is plenty of water. You come out 10, 15 minutes, it's all dried out over there, Midbar Yehuda. So this we talked about, it's called the, what's it called? Rain shadow desert. Okay? What did we say? I had a song when I was a kid. It went evaporation, condensation brings about the cloud formation. Something like that. It got me through science in elementary school. Evaporation, condensation. Is that okay? Brings about the cloud. Stratus and cumulus is how clouds are formed. That's the song. But anyway, I got it coming in from the Mediterranean. I got all the humidities coming in. We start hitting the coastal plain, rising a little bit. The water's coming down. I'm going to hit the Shvela, and we're going to rise even further as the water goes up, gets colder. Colder temperatures will make the condensation. The rain starts coming down. We come up to 700 meters over here at Yerushalayim, 1,000 meters in Neve Daniel. Everything's dropping all over the place, and boom, by the time you get over the mountains, there's not that much left. Okay, this is we discussed in the past. That's why when you get right outside Yerushalayim, near Mitzpeh Yericho, it's all dry over here. Now that's what happens a lot. Some of the waters are going to rush down into the Dead Sea. Some are going to rush down surface waters into the Mediterranean. There's these top of the mountains here is going to be what's known as the new. No, in this case, why am I blanking? Because I just landed 2 days ago. I jet lagged last night. You ever had that? Stare at the ceiling. It'll come to me afterwards. But this is going to be where the water's going to break either east or west. How do you say that in English? Huh? Kaparshat Mayim. No, continental divide is something else. That's a...
All the water on this side goes to the
Mediterranean. Yeah, it's the place. This is the line, right? In other words, if you go through Israel, you can just be on the mountains, the top of the mountains. One side goes towards the west, one side's going to go towards the east. Okay, we got that. But what happens to the water?
The clouds break over Yerushalayim.
No, excuse me?
The clouds break over Yerushalayim.
Yeah, remember we talked, I don't remember how many people were last, this might be a few months ago. Remember we were talking about how if you're standing, what's familiar to us from here, if you're standing at the corner of the Great Synagogue, right? Remember that we were talking. If you're at the Great Synagogue and you're looking east towards the old city, so that's Rehov Agron, the Super Soul, Rehov Agron, and it's going downhill towards the east. And then if you stand in the same spot, but you just turn like this, you're going to be looking at Rehov Ramban. Ramban's going to be a little bit flat, and then as soon as it goes down towards Rupin, it also heads down, and it's going to go on Highway 1 out of the city. It's very clear where that line is exactly. So that's what the waters. Now some of the waters are going to be surface waters. What?
It says watershed.
Thank you. The watershed line. I appreciate it. Watershed line. So some of those. That's going to. What happens though? The fact that the Harei Yerushalayim are all limestone, dolomite or limestone. Limestone has a lot of fissures in it. So if the water sinks into the mountains, where's it going to go to? Where's it going to come out?
Underground caverns.
So some of it's in the aquifer, underground, and some of it does actually spring out at the side of the mountain. Right near us, the Sataf. When was the last time you were at the Sataf? It's right here next to Yerushalayim. There, the Sataf, it's coming out of the side of the mountain. Where else? So do we have to go on to Chiyol a little bit? No, forget that. Where is this, anybody? Ein Gedi, right? Ein Gedi. Where's the waters in Ein Gedi coming from? That's the waters that landed in Yerushalayim, and I don't know. It's 10 years later, 100 years later, 5 years. I don't know, but it's coming out of the side of the mountain. That's Ein Gedi. That's clear. So also now we're going to take a trip a little bit. Where are we now? This is tougher. This one's tough. I'll go back to this. This one's too hard. What is this?
Tel Dan?
Yes, Yefeh. Tel Dan. That's Tel Dan. This one, the first one we saw was actually the Banyas. All right, what's left? If you do Banyas, you do Tel Dan.
Sneer.
The sneer. Excellent, the sneer. You know, we like to call it the Chatzbani. It's a tiyul. It's a beautiful tiyul. If any of us are taking like grandkids, it's just wonderful walking on the side, and they got the water rushing over here. It's like one of the most popular tiyulim. Nachon? Kulam osim et zeh. Kama pamim b'chayim kvar asitem et zeh? Chamisha v'ayah. Okay, now this is how I got through, by the way, this is how I got through my tests, because I kept thinking about what's BDS stand for. There you go. Right? That's the Banyas is B, and Dan, and the sneer, Chatzbani. So this stuff, where are these waters coming from? It's the same idea. Where are these waters coming from? So if you take a look here, if you go up, there's mountains all over. The same thing's happening right over here. Okay, it's going to be the Hermon. This is the tip of the Hermon mountain range. Hermon mountain range is going to run like this, go up north. It's going to be, at some point we call it Harei Mul HaLebanon, right? But it's the same idea that the waters are coming in from the Mediterranean, and they're going to land on these mountains, sink into the mountains, and then come out the side. Especially when you talk about the Hermon, because of its elevation, in all its beauty. Actually, I forgot that I had a picture for my son. He was doing just recently, a few months ago. He was up in the Golan. He's a Golanchik, and so he was up in on the Hermon. But this is the snow. When this snow melts, where's it heading? It goes into the mountain. It comes out. Where's it coming out to? It's going to come out of the mountain. It's going to head into what's called the Upper Judean River and into the Sea of Galilee. But it's really coming out all along over here into that's going to be Banyas and going to be Dan. The truth is that the snare is going to be even further up. It comes out of in the makor of the snare, the Chatzbani, is even more north. It actually starts out in Lebanon, in the valley of Lebanon. And that's brought us to pre-1967 when the Syrians, and they could have done it, they were going to try to divert the waters of the dafka of the snare from coming into the snare. They're going to dry it out. So that's when they started the bulldozers. That's one time we did. It was pre-67, but it was leading up to the 6-Day War that we were shooting at their bulldozers, because that's going to stop the water flow of the Chatzbani into the upper Jordan River. But that's it's like this: the rain comes down and it starts settling into the Hermon and it comes out this way. Now we're going to take a trip to this wonderful city. All right, here's the hint. This is about as close as you'll ever get to this city. Damascus. This is Damascus. Now look at Damascus. Damascus obviously is, if you're looking, I'll give it away, we're looking west. These are the mountains Mul HaLebanon. Looks familiar? Looks very much like if you're standing at Mitzpeh Yericho, if you're standing at the Dead Sea and you're looking back towards the west, you'll see all the dry hills of Judea. This is the same thing. It's going to be that the water has already fallen on the mountains on the eastern side, on the western side of these mountains. When you get to the east, it's all dried out. So how can Damascus be a large city that's sitting right over here? Because it has these rivers. Right? So the waters came in, they dropped, finally, all the waters finally dropped over here. You get to Damascus, over here there's nothing left. So the thing is, I also have over here, same idea. You can see Damascus is right over here, right outside the hills. Hermon, this is near the Hermon, it becomes Mul Lebanon. That's where Damascus sits, and it's in between these two rivers, the Awaj River and the Barada River. Okay, so here's the point though. Where are the waters for this Awaj and Barada, or in the Lashon of the Nach, the Amana and the Parpar? Where are those waters coming from? They're coming from none other, same idea, than the Hermon. Meaning that the waters of, in the Tanach, Amana and what's it? Parpar and the Amana waters is coming out here. It's the same exact waters that's coming out here into the River Jordan. So what exactly is Naaman, the general, saying? Are not Amana and Parpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? What is he saying? He said, I know my topography. It's the same exact water. Same exact water. So why should I bother? I could go take a bath in Damascus. So when he does go into the water, and it does cure him, it's not because there's something magical, medicinal. Not magical. It's not because there's something medicinal about the waters of the Jordan, because it's the same exact source. The waters are exactly the same as the ones that are coming out towards Damascus. It's the same source. It's the Hermon mountain. Oh, so cool. So what is he saying to himself? What is he saying? It's not medicinal. He finally goes into the water, and it finally does cure him. So what's he saying? It's not medicinal. So it must be from the Navi. It's because of the Navi. So you still got a question. So why does he do it that way? Why is it that Elisha didn't just go hocus pocus and pull it out? So this is what Professor Meitler says, is it possible? What is Elisha also suggesting? Now let's take it the other way. It's the same waters, right? And therefore it has to be that it was because of the strength of Kodesh Baruch that cured you. But let's think about it the other side. It's that if God can make the waters of the river Jordan so beneficial that it cures you, that means God could also do the opposite. It means these same waters that are heading towards Damascus, Kodesh Baruch Hu wants that you could play with that as well. So you guys in Aram, you better behave yourselves, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu is protecting the Jewish people. And that's Professor Meitlis' approach. But if you know your topography, it's an example of that because we're traveling around our country, we know the topography so well. So you read a parsha, and instead of coming up with a question like, why did Elisha do that? You're able to explain it, and it comes with a greater understanding of what Elisha was trying to accomplish. And that's why the parsha really ends up, and then he returned to the man of God, he and his entire camp, meaning Naaman, the general, and he came and stood before me and said, behold, now I know that there is no God in all of earth except in Israel. And that's how the story really ends. He asks a shaila now. He says, when I go back, he said, what am I going to do? Because I'm the general, I'm the right hand, I have to hold to king as we go in front of the Avodah Zarah. So when the king is bowing for the Avodah Zarah, I'm going to have to do it along with him. But I don't want to bow to Avodah Zarah anymore because I understand better. So that's a question. It's real, but this is our understanding. And it's it's very exciting because now we understand exactly, it's a deeper insight into what was going on in the story. I think it makes a lot more sense out of it. Okay, so that's the Parsha of Naaman. That's why I want to do it first. And now, I wanted to finish up something. This time it's a cryptic pasuk with an archaeological look. It's a little bit different, the look. So Yisraelik is a look. Okay, this is Chizkiyahu and Sancheiriv. Sancheiriv is in smaller letters because Chizkiyahu is so great. So this is something, we talked about this, and this one I'm going to go through very quickly because we have to finish it up before the summer break. A number of months ago, we talked about that David HaMelech comes, and the first thing that David does when he becomes king over all, first he's 7 years of his kingship, he's in Hebron, because that's his tribe, and they took him as a melech, but the rest of Am Yisrael is still stuck with Shaul or Shaul's son. So he says like this, when they're having a tough time with the Plishtim, the rest of Am Yisrael comes to David and says, David, can you be melech over all of us? He says, let's go ahead and go up to Yerushalayim. We're going to have to get our capital. We're going to unite the Jewish people in Yerushalayim. And that's a cryptic idea that he says, whoever touches the tzinor, the pipe. So we talked about this at length, that in those days when David comes and sees the Jebusite city, remember this? Har Moriah, and this is going to be, okay, this is going to be the Tyropian Valley over here, the Kidron Valley over here, and then over here, this is going to be the Ir HaYavus, the Jebusite city. Today, this is what's known as Ir David. In those days, you had the city walls on the top of the mountain for defensive purposes. The problem is that the water source was all the way down at the bottom of the valley. So how do you protect the water source from being taken over by the enemy? So you build a fortress over the water source, which is invincible, which is impregnable, and then you have to run under the ground, the tunnel that gets to the water source, so that the people going there are protected. So again, we talked about this a number of months ago, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. And this is what we said, that if you go to the city of David today, you actually have this, right? Does anybody, you remember this one? I think, well, you go down and you're actually inside the mountain. This is hewn out during the Canaanite period. And this is the tunnel that takes you down towards the water source. The water source is right underneath this grading. And this is where the Gihon spring is. At the time of David, this whole area is filled with water, and there's actually an exit that's right over here that the water would run down parallel to Nachal Kidron. In other words, this all would be filled with water, and the water is running now down towards the south, parallel to Nachal Kidron. That's what David finds, and that's what we got up to a few months ago. Okay? Now, I wanted to jump ahead after David. Let's say we put David at about 1000 BCE. So when are we going to, let's jump over 300 years. We're going to come to, Chizkiyahu. Chizkiyahu, let's say, is about the year 700. 720 BCE, 700 BCE. Who's attacking Chizkiyahu? 702 BCE. Who's attacking Chizkiyahu? Sancherev Melech Ashur, the Assyrians, the first of the great, like almost world empires. And this is what happens. And after these deeds of integrity, Sancherev, the king of Assyria, came and he entered into Judah and camped against the fortified cities. And this you can get to the story of Lachish. He basically wipes out the kingdom, well, beforehand already, Sargon. They wiped out the kingdom of the north of Israel. And what remains in Judah, they get also, everything's wiped out, and they're crowding into Yerushalayim. And Chizkiyahu saw that Sancherev had come, and he's directed to wage war. He took counsel, and they said, okay, and a large multitude gathered and stopped up all the fountains and the stream that flowed in the midst of the land, saying, why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water? So, what is he talking about over here? You read these things, what kind of water are we talking about? Where's our only water source for Yerushalayim, ancient Yerushalayim? That's going to be that Gihon spring. And this actually I saw this morning that... the Chizkiyahu, what's his name mean? Chazak Yud-Hey, Chazak Ka. In other words, that God strengthened him to withstand the battle against Sancherev Melech Ashur, or Chazak Ka, that he was strong on behalf of God, that it's a famous Gemara, that he put a sword into the Beis Medrash, right? At the doorway of the Beis Medrash, and Chizkiyahu said, Kol mi she'eino osek b'Torah, anybody's not going to learn Torah, yitkar b'cherev zu. All right, well, he's going to get stabbed by this sword. That's much stronger than like rulers on the tips of your fingers. I like this method. But kumidan ve'ad Beersheva v'lo matzu am haaretz. Everybody was learned in those days. He put together the educational system. So he was chazak, he was strong for God. That's Chizkiyahu. But what happens? Chizkiyahu says, look, this might have been good for the Jebusites. This might be good for the last 300 years. But I got a world power now moving in. Assyria, Sancherev Melech Ashur just took over the entire Mesopotamia. He's like the world power. He comes to some fortress like that. That's not a problem. He's going to knock down the fortress. He's going to get all the water. And what happens to the Jewish people that are stuck here in the middle? It's going to be no water. So what does Chizkiyahu decide to do? And that's what that pasuk is talking about. You have to stop up the water. What are we going to do with the waters? So you're going to have to, instead of the water coming out on the side and running down along over here and irrigating the King's Valley that's in the Kidron Valley, instead he's going to have to divert the water underground back into the city itself. And he's going to have to get rid of this whole massive thing, cover it over, so that Sancherev will have no idea where the source of the water is. So that's what happens. Instead of the water in the past coming out of the bottom of this fortress and heading down the Canaanite tunnel, and heading down parallel to the Kidron Valley, he's going to have to clog this whole thing up, get rid of any way of identifying the water source. He's going to have to run the water back into the city. And this is what it's going to look like. It's from here, it's going to go back into the city and it rests in the pool of Shiloach. And therefore, if this was the source of the water, and it is till today, the Gihon Spring flows right from out underneath here, but it used to fill up this area and then run down parallel to the Kidron Valley. Instead, he's going to dig in this direction. And that's exactly what this famous Chizkiyahu tunnels are. Everybody comes to Chizkiyahu tunnels because it's like the only water hike that you got in Yerushalayim. But this is the amazing thing. This is Chizkiyahu's tunnels. It's 533 meters long, it's half a kilometer long. It has a gradient of only 33 centimeters. Can you imagine that? They don't have modern engineering tools, but somehow they're able to make a gradient that's 0.7 degrees is the gradient. Oh, thank you so much. So, thank you. 0.7 degrees gradient, and that's going to go for half a kilometer. So the water's going to come run backwards, all right, and enter in to the city itself, and we have water in protection against Sancheriv. So you understand that pasuk. What happens next is they're going to say in Yeshayahu, and the cracks of the city of David, you saw that something increased, and you gather the water of the lower pool. Okay, we discussed that. And the houses of Jerusalem you counted, and you demolished the houses to fortify the wall. So again, we don't know what the pasuk is talking about. What do you mean you demolished the houses to fortify the wall? Totally cryptic. But nowadays, thank God, because of the archaeology that we've done, we understand exactly what it's talking about. Without a safek, look at this one. This is the coolest thing. If you're in the, where are we? This is obviously the, all right, this is the Temple Mount. This over here is the Kotel, the Kotel Plaza, Jaffa Gate. So now, if I come up, okay, here we go. I'm coming out of this side of the Kotel Plaza. I'm going up those stairs, okay? Right about over here, I'm sort of plotting, because the stairs never end. So I keep going, I'm going. I made it up to here, and then I can sort of pull myself into Burger's Bar, right about over there. Is that true description? Yeah. And then, okay, now if I walk a little bit further, all right, I'll get right over here to the Churva Square. Here's the Churva Square. And if I go right behind the Churva Square, right about over here, I come to something that's called the Broad Wall. We've been there. We've all, right? The Broad Wall. It's right behind the Churva. What is it facing? It's part of we don't see the rest, but it's facing a wall that went basically like this. And what is it protecting against? The northern part, the approach to the city from the north. The Russian compound is going to be right about over here. And this we found at the Russian compounds where we actually have found the remnants of the Roman siege on Jerusalem from the end of the Second Temple. Because this area is pretty much flat, and this is how you're going to attack. If you want to attack Yerushalayim on this side, I got Nachal Kidron. It's a pain. And I have over here the Gei Ben Hinnom, and it comes around. Yerushalayim is protected on three sides by valleys. The north is the Mitzafon Tipatach Hara'ah. Right? From the north is where the enemies are going to come from. So on the macro it makes sense. That's Bavel and Aram and Assyria. But on the smaller sense, in the micro, it also makes sense because I'm not protected from the north. It's flat. So right over here, Chizkiyahu has to come and make a broad wall as an added defense of the city in this area. Okay, so we understand what was going on, what was happening. So take a look. Up until 1967, this whole area, like the street level was right about over here. The entire Jewish quarter was all about up to here. And in 1948, the Jordanians, right, the moderates, the peace-loving Jordanians, they came in and what? Anything that smelled Jewish, they smashed and blew it up, right? When the Chorva synagogue got blown up, so in the modern part of the city, they were able to see it go. And in a sense, came back 67, we walked into the old city, so it was sad. But again, what was the silver lining? Everything's destroyed. It means we could dig down, do our archaeology, and then rebuild. And that's why you have the houses of the old city. The old city looks very nice today. And because it's very small, so prices there, I was going to do it for the fun of it, just check how much a meter costs in the old city. It's some kind of crazy amount. It's like I think it's like 70,000 shekel per square meter. Is that possible? Does that make sense? A small apartment of 100 meters will be 7 million shekel. Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right. Now, if everything's so expensive, here's my question to you. Comes 1968, about Naaman Avigad, professor, is coming down and he's clearing out. They're digging around over here because they have a chance. It's a race between the archaeologists and the contractors. They want to rebuild it because we want to put facts on the ground because we want to keep the old city. So he's going down, down, down. All of a sudden he bangs into some kind of a surface. Okay, he moves over a few meters, comes down, 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 bangs into a surface. Moves over a few meters, down, down, bangs into a surface. What does he all of a sudden realize? It's a wall. He's on the top of a wall. Now this is not the top. The top of the wall is really further, much. It's like 8 meters tall. It's huge. But he does go across in the expanse of the wall. He realizes it's broad, very broad. I forget how many meters across, like 4 meters. It's really broad. So he says that. Can I trouble you one time, please? Just to make sure we have enough time. Okay. So he realizes that it's a very broad wall, and he's digging down. All of a sudden he says, I know what this is. It's a very broad wall. And what is it exactly? It's the broad wall of Chizkiyahu. It's called the broad wall in the Divrei Hayamim. So he comes and he says, I found it. Now here's the question for you. If everything costs like 70,000 shekel per square meter, why is this? And usually what they do is like the Herodian quarter, the Herodian museum's underneath the dormitory of Yeshivat HaKotel. A lot of museums are underneath because you can't afford to leave empty space in the old city. Why is this area left open like this? This is worth a good solid several $1 million here. Right? Let's face it, Jewish, right? What is this universal Jewish chulent talk? Right? What do we all say when we walk into the old city? If only I had bought. Right? True confessions. Who has not said that? When we first got here, right? You haven't said it.
No, my house is still waiting to be built.
Where? In the old city?
I'm a Kohen.
Oh, okay. What do you mean waiting to be built? It's built. You just have to decide which one you want. It's all of them. I remember going. This is really in the '80s. I used to go with the yeshiva. I used to be in the yeshiva then, and we used to go up to Tzfat for Shabbos. It was hovels. Everything was like broken down. We could have picked up something there for nothing. And now you can't get anything in Tzfat, even if you're looking for it. It's all bought up.
You can't touch that either.
Yeah. Well.
But
I'm talking about, okay, so look, why is this open like this? Because this wasn't just finding the broad wall. It proved something much, much greater. We had, for many, many years, for centuries, since archaeology began, there's the maximalists and the minimalists. The minimalists usually anti-Semites, but the minimalist school in archaeology said that first of all, there's some who said that David and Shlomo didn't exist. And if they did exist, they were small chieftains of a small tribe. And if they did have a little city, then it was on the city of David. Never made it to the Western Ridge, or no, it's what we call the Jewish quarter of today. And then all of a sudden, who was a big proponent of that? That was Kathleen Kenyon. Remember her? She even made it to the screen over here. Kathleen Kenyon is famous for her early she's a British archaeologist. She did Jericho. She did the first archaeology in the city of David, which is called today Area G, with the gates and the old biblical, the 4-room Israelite home. That's her work. So she's known throughout the world. And if she says something, then it was believed. In the 60s, she did some excavations on this mountain. She said the Jews, nah, nothing here. It was David, small little chieftain. When Avigad found this, not only will this prove, not only did he find the broad wall, not only does it say that what's written in our Tanach
True.
is true, and I take birthwriters over here and I say, look, it's not Baba Mises, this is true. We're reading our Tanach and it's exactly in front of our face. So it's not only that, but it also proved the fact that Yerushalayim was a very large city in the time of the first temple already. And it was a big thing, and they left this part open over here. That's the story of this. Looks like just like a pile of rocks, but it's something very, very important. So that's why it's like that. Now what happens though, okay, this is Avigad's, just for time reasons, he's talking about that when he finds it, he's very excited. And he doesn't want to tell anybody because he's not sure, if he wanted to date anything that they found over there. He wanted to make sure that he got what he got before he said. But anyway, if you take a look at the side of this large wall, take a look down here on the bottom. What does that look like?
A bit of mess.
Look at that.
Grave?
It looks like a mikvah, but if you think about it as being that this wall is built on top of what this was. What is this? This is the corner of somebody's house.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're talking about in the pasuk over here. The pasuk, when it says that you built the wall on top of the houses of Jerusalem, this is the example of it. Today we see it exactly with our own eyes, what Chizkiyahu did 2,700 years ago. So archaeology that we have helps explain that pasuk itself. What was the end of the story? This is a prism. This is called Sennacherib's prism. It's only about 1.5 feet tall, but it has the description of Sennacherib's conquests. And the end of the story over here is that Sennacherib Melech Ashur, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, when he comes and attacks Jerusalem, so this is what he says in this prism of his. And he says, as to Chizkiyahu the Jew, he did not submit to my yoke. I laid siege to his strong cities. Yeah, he destroyed 42 of our cities. And he destroyed Yehuda. Walled forts and countless small villages, and conquered them by means of well-stamped earth rams and battering rams. If you go to Lachish today, you'll see this. And brought near the walls with an attack by foot soldiers, using mines, breaches, etc. And what's the end of the story? According to Sennacherib. As for Chizkiyahu, Sennacherib boasts, him I made a prisoner in Jerusalem, his royal residence, like a bird in a cage. What is missing here? What does he not do?
He doesn't say that he conquered.
He doesn't say that he conquered him. He can't, because he did it. He doesn't get into the details. What are the details exactly? So says the Lord. This is from, I think, Yeshayahu speaking. Right? He shall not come into the city, neither shall he shoot there an arrow, he not advance upon it. Right? The way he comes, he shall return the city, he shall not enter, says Hashem. I'll protect this city to save it for my sake, for the sake of my servant David. And it came to pass on the night that the angel of the Lord went out, and 185,000 of the camp of Assyria, and they arose, and
in the morning,
and they behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib goes back to Syria, and he's killed by his 2 sons. That's the end of the story. And the prism of Sennacherib is also very telltale, because it doesn't say that he conquered Yerushalayim. We know what happened. Of course, Baruch made sure that there's going to be a plague, and a good portion of his army was destroyed overnight, and they just left Yerushalayim. That's the story. You stand over. There's much more to that story, because there's discussion with Rav Shaka, who's the general of Sennacherib, and it's in Yeshayahu. And to be honest, it's a lot of fun. I got a little crazy this morning when I was finding all of these. The defeat of Sennacherib, or this is a Rubens, right? It's a very dramatic scene. Right? You got the angels over here destroying his army, woodcut, very popular. Like I said, I got crazy, but they're so very cool. I like this one, Gustav Dori.
So these are pictures of angels of death.
Angels of Death, yeah. And they killed out everybody. I didn't find this till early this morning. Did you guys grow up with Lord Byron? We never studied Lord Byron. But he has it's a lengthy poem. You can look it up. The Syrians came down like the wolf on the fold, and his cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold. Okay, very nice. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed. The eyes of the sleepers waxed deadly and chill, and their hearts but once heaved forever grew still. Really, it's a long poem about this event. Fun to watch. Okay, very quickly. I just wanted to say what Chizkiyahu did, but again, we don't have that much time. Great book by Aaron Horowitz, Jerusalem Footsteps Through Time. I don't think it's in print anymore, but I found it on... Aaron Horowitz is the head of the research center down in the city of David. He's the son of the Bodol Michaim L'chaim, Whitey Horowitz, who used to be the Rosh Hashiva and BMT. He has a beautiful sefer. I found it on eBay. It seems that the PTA of the Hafter Yeshiva had leftovers. They were giving out the sefer for their class of 2002, and they had leftovers and they were selling it for cheap. So I got one. Okay? But it's just a discussion that we grew up thinking that based upon the pasuk and what we assume it says in the pasuk, that Kodesh Baruch Hu was upset with Chizkiyahu for what he did, and he just brings a proof that if you take a look at Avos to Rabbi Nassan, it says 4 things that Kodesh Baruch Hu was very happy with what he did. He got rid of the Sefer Refuot, it was the book of medicine, and he broke apart the Nachash HaNechoshet that was in the serpent that was in the Parsha a few weeks ago. He got rid of the Bamot, which we talked about, and he clogged up the Gihon spring. So okay, just want to end that, and I just want to go now to one last thing, and just to finish off the season. We're going to now head to a place called Bigat Beit, ? And the question mark synagogue. Why? Because this is going to be in the Talmudic period archaeological look without a pasuk, and I didn't want to tell you where we're going because I wanted to see if you guys could come up with it. You ready? Extra points right now. Okay, suspense is really palpable here. Where are we right now? Oh, so we're looking at...
because it was on the list of the things.
That's why I put the question marks, and I didn't know they said right. Okay. I'm looking at the northern part of the Kinneret. This is going to be the Golan Heights, and I'm sitting right here on the Arbel Mountain. Okay? Famous. If you can't now, you can see it's that cliff. Again, Kinneret, Golan Heights. Beautiful picture. And this is famous. That Tzuk, the cliff of the Arbel, known... Kama pamim atem usitem et Arbel kfar? All right, we take Israeli kids. We take the little 5th grader, 5-year-old, the first graders, and believe it or not, we march them down. You have to hang onto the side of the mountain and go down. That's what we do in this country. So that's why we're tough. We're tough over here. So that's the thing. I think it's about over here. Something that looks like this. You go through the crevice of the mountain, you come down, and then you continue walking. So the best hike in Israel. This is myself, obviously, my wife, and my oldest granddaughter. Okay? Nice. And we were taking her on a bat mitzvah tour, on a bat mitzvah trip for 3 days with her, Saba and Bubby. Elisa wanted to be a Bubby.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't be a Zeta because it felt too old. So I stuck with Saba. It gets confusing. Okay, anyway. So we're standing there on the top of our bell before we start heading down, right? And Lisa did it as well.
Wow.
And it's a lot of fun. Right? You make one slip and there you go. No, but it's a lot of fun. Most people, nothing happens on this because you're so concerned when you're walking. Anyway, we're up near the Kinneret. Nachon. I want to tell you something really quick. That's the hike. It's famous. Before the hike, there used to be a city called the Arbel City. It's a small town. It's not populated anymore. We used to pass right by it because it was filled with just thorns. And nobody took care of it. It was filled with thorns. You couldn't even get in there. They finally cleared it out, and this is what you found. The old city, and there was actually these amudim were there. And this is this point. This is what they found. This is what you could find nowadays. I think this was what was left. These posts were left. And this entranceway is left over there. Now we want to focus in on the tip. This is a door, right? And here's the entranceway. Let's focus in. Okay, take a look at this. All right, again, here's the door. All right, what does this look like? You see over here? Same thing on the, well, you can't see that.
It's going somewhere.
It's going somewhere, right? In other words, I'm looking at it again now. I got my main door, and what do I have on the side over here?
There's got a wall going on.
No, but see, you see the
For a gate.
the marking. It looks like an additional door.
Yeah.
Whereas I got the main door, and I got a smaller door. We call it a pish-push, right? Pish-pash. It's also in the Mishnayos, and over here the same thing happens. That's really interesting. In other words, that's what they found over here, and they realized as they're looking around, they're doing the archaeology. I'm going to tell you now, this is a fellow named Professor Chagai Amitzur. He's a Talmid Chacham also, he's a professor. He's involved with what's called the Shvil HaSanhedrin up in the north, which connected 70 different points, which goes through the Galilee and talks about when the Sanhedrin was Gola to the north. He's got that on his points, and also places where you know Talmudic Rabbanim, where they lived. Take a look in Shvil HaSanhedrin, the Sanhedrin Trail. It's really, he's put it together up in the north. Chagai Amitzor says the following, this is his Devar Torah. I want to say it b'shem Omer. I heard this from him. This thing that we were looking at over here, we'll see why, but the archaeology on it, these large pillars, a big grand entrance, and I'll show you another part of it. This is actually the entrance to a Beit Knesset, right? It's a Beit Knesset, synagogue from the north. Okay, now it looks like this. Get an artist in there, take what we found, and you put this in. And this is what it would look like. Nice, ganz feine Beit Knesset. You put some, artist rendition. It has a women's section on the top. Put some flesh on the bones. This is what you get. Not bad, right? Now, Chagai Amitzor says he's based upon others who research this. How long does it take? We don't have governmental funds. The people are farmers. How long does it take to build something like this?
20 years.
At least, right? A lifetime, a generation. Like you're a farmer, you're out there plowing your field, you come across a nice stone. So you bring it in, put it on, and then we'll wait that every few months the farmers will come in and continue to build. It could take 20 years, 40 years. In order, it's a good chance I'm building this building, and I'm not going to even pray in it. Who's going to pray in it? I'm building it for the generations to come. Meaning that when I build it, if I have something peculiar about the way it's constructed, means I'm trying to teach my kids a lesson. What could have been the lesson in this building? So there's some peculiarities on the way it's built. Let's go back to this. So first of all, what we see over here is that this thing is the main entrance, has a main door, and then it has a smaller door on the side, and also the same thing over here. So I have an entrance that has 3 doors to it. The other point is that you could see it like it broke, but this thing is called a monolith. It's made out of one piece of stone. How do you build a doorway? 3 pieces. I got the 2 mezuzot, and then I got the lintel on the top. This thing, though, it's one big piece of stone. Now, that's very expensive, and I have to schlep it. How do you do that? In ancient times, it weighs a ton. So that's the questions. Why do I have an entrance that's got 3 doorways, and why is it made out of one stone? And what's the
Because it was there.
No, nice, but no, it's not. Okay, and what is this? This is the shul. What is this?
Aaron.
The Aron Kodesh. I'm up at Tveria. Which direction is the Aron Kodesh facing? South. I told you Yerushalayim. Now the entrance, therefore, what we're looking at is I'm on the east. The eastern side has that main entrance. That's very unusual to have an entrance on the eastern side. Why? Usually, anybody? This one is in the Golan Heights. We're at a place called El Kanatir, the mother of all arches. This actually is the middle of Golan Heights. It's beautiful. It was put together, quick story on it, that it was earthquakes shattered it in the year, I don't remember anymore, 799 I think. But the earthquakes shook it and everything was on the side, so a guy came and he did put computer chips in each of the stones, scanned the entire stone and had a computer program that spun all the stones so that he'd know how to reassemble it. You could actually rent this place out for, bar mitzvah wedding. But it's a beautiful, and you see the darkness, that's what color stone? That's basalt, right? Basalt of the Golan, mineral. It's the ash. The Golan Heights is a volcanic height. So here the entrance is this. We have a lot of tens of Talmudic period synagogues. It's usually the entrances either on the north. Either on the southern wall, like with the Aron Kodesh, or where am I now? Wrong way. Or where am I now? Yeah, that's pretty good. This is Katrin. Katrin also works the same way. The Aron Kodesh is here on the south. The entrance is on the north. That's typical. Why is it that the entrance was on the eastern side when you get to the Arbel? The Arbel Beit Knesset. Why is the entrance on the eastern side? Why is it an entrance with 3 doors? And why is it that it's a monolith? And if they're building it, if they're doing this thing that's peculiar, what are they trying to tell the future generations? In order to do so, we have to just appreciate where we're building, and then we'll wrap it up. This is this again is the Arbel cliff. This hill on the other side, you have a vadi in between. This hill on the other side is cutely called Har Nitai. They have a sense of humor in the government departments over here. Why is it called Har Nitai? Because in Mishnah Masechet Avot, Nitai Har Arbeli. There's a guy named Nitai. He's a Tana. He comes from Arbel. Nitai Arbeli. Nitai Arbeli said the following: do not abandon belief in the retribution. Or explain otherwise, don't give up because of how bad things are. When is Nitai living? He's deep into the Roman period. Okay? Things are bad. Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. Doesn't look good for the Jewish people. You could almost write us out. And he's saying, don't give up. Don't give up. That's his message. Okay? We'll get back to that. And here, very quickly, the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, the Sanhedrin was exiled in 10 stages at the end of the Second Temple period and after the destruction of the Temple. And it goes through it. Yerushalayim to Yavne, and to Usha, and to Yavne again, then back to Usha, Shfaram. Finally gets to Tiberia. And Tiberia is deeper than the rest. It says, Rabbi Yochanan Misham Atidin Legael. From there, they're destined to be redeemed. Okay? Truth is that Tiberia is where the yeshiva of Eretz Yisrael stayed. For many years, the Rambam actually came there. I think that's why. The end of the Masorah reading is in Tiberia. The first city, Jewish city, to be captured in 1948 was Tiberia. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. So Tiberia and its surroundings, meaning Arbel. The Arbel is right above Tiberia. Those are the cities that are Atidin Legael. That's where the Geula is going to come from. It's very kashur to the concepts of Geula. Same thing is that Rabbi Chia Bar Ab and Rabbi Shimon are walking in Bikat Beit Arbel, in that valley between Arbel, and it's coming towards the morning, and they sees the sun coming up. He says, this is the Geula of the Jewish people. It comes slowly but surely, but it's eventually going to come. What's the story? So Rav Yochanan says, this is a story from Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan was sitting in the Beit Knesset in Tzipori, and he says in the future, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to build a gate, and he's going to build the eastern gate of the Beit HaMikdash, which has 2 smaller gates to it. It's going to be from one stone, margalit, of pearl. And there was this guy, a mocker, a guy, an apostate, who was laughing at him. He says, it can't be. This same apostate goes out to travel at the sea, and his boat floundered at sea, and he drowned. He went down to the bottom of the water, and there you saw the Malachei Sharet. They were cutting out this doorway. And he asked them, what is this for? And the Malachim said, this is for the eastern gate of the Beit HaMikdash. It's one entrance, large entrance with 2 smaller entrances on the side. And then a nace happened, and he was able to come out of the waters, and he was saved. The next year, when he came back, Rabbi Yochanan again was being Dorish, the same matter. It seems that Rabbi Yochanan was very into this, because Rabbi Yochanan was saying that from Tiberia is where the Geula is going to begin. So he was discussing matters of redemption, and the same exact thing. And then this guy, the apostate, says, I saw it, you can't make fun of this because I actually saw it happening. Okay, interesting. So what do we know? The area of the Arbel is talking about the redemption is eventually going to come from there. And we also know that in Rav Yochanan's talking about, that's what the theme is of that area. And they're saying, in spite of the fact that the Romans are heavily subjugating us, says Nitai Arbeli, don't give up from the Poranut. Don't give up. It'll be good for the Jewish people. So what happens? And here's what you see in the Beit HaMikdash on the eastern doorway. The main door with the side doors. What happened? It seems that, what was the message that they were telling when they built that Beit Knesset? What was the message they were telling the future generations? Don't give up. We already have the eastern door for the Beit HaMikdash. It's going to happen. It's in our shul. We have a small shul, eventually it'll be the Beit HaMikdash, to try to give hope to the future generations. And here we have just Stam archaeology. We have a Beit Knesset from that time. And look, it's amazing that you could understand what they were trying to accomplish. If you go there today, instead of it being filled with a lot of weeds, there was actually a family of Max Steinberg, who actually cleared out the area and made a little place to stand to see the archaeology. Max Steinberg was a fellow from Los Angeles, not really connected to his Judaism, but he went on at Birthright. And it was famous that he got involved. He decided he wants to stay in Israel, join the army, and he was killed, unfortunately. So the parents came, and when they came there on the way to and you know how it is in Eretz Yisrael, we're one family, and they said there's a lone soldier that was killed. 30,000 people showed up to the Levaya. On the way there, the parents were in the car showing all these people walking in the street. They said, "What's going on today? We have some kind of a holiday?" They said, "No, they all went to the funeral." The parents were so taken. What got Max Steinberg to stay? Because he was on Har Arbel, and they were talking about the future of the Jewish people, that slowly but surely. And this is this Har Arbel. That's what, and that in between Arbel and Nitai, this has been a major highway since the beginning of time. You come through these highways to get to Kinneret, and this is that story, that they're walking through Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shimon, and he sees the redemption. He sees the sun coming up over the Golan. He says that's Israel's redemption. At first it comes slowly by slowly, and it progresses, the light increases. Why does it come slowly? Why does God make the redemption come slowly? So I was taught, used to say, because you turn on the lights at night, you can't appreciate it, you can't see. But what is it? Because if you're standing on the Arbel and you see the sun coming up towards the daybreak, slowly but surely, why a little bit of light? Why does God do it slowly and then a little bit more light? Because he wants us to participate. We were talking about this before, right? He wants us to give us room for us to bring about the Gula as well. That's up to us. We have to build the country along with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Isn't that how God always runs things? We have to part with him doing great stuff. So the sun comes up, and it comes up further, and it comes up further, and it's shining out over the Kinneret. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should continue to see the sun grow as we continue to build our beautiful country over here. Be'ezrat Hashem Yisbarach. Wow. Thank you very much. Everyone should have a great rest of the summer, and I hope they invite me back comes September.
You will.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Can you stop this?